So I read that Bernie said on Mill City boxing that Bud, he didn't think Bud was gonna fight again unless it was for 100 M's. And read that Danny Garcia said that Bud should rematch Canelo, and if he come to 60, those guys are really, really hungry. That he might want to tread lightly there. And we can start off with the Danny thing. I agree with Danny. Because those guys get an opportunity to make a name for themselves. It's no name at 60. 60 is a very historic division. It's one of the original divisions. When you start getting the junior super, that's how you know it's not usually one of the original divisions. I'm not sure about like when you get like below like featherweight, bantamweight. I don't really get into all that. What's been there, what wasn't there. But I know the ones I can remember, I want to say featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, heavyweight. It was original 8. So then it's probably bantamweight. And there's one more, whatever come before bantamweight. I think it was original 8 divisions. Middleweight, very historic division. Really, once you kind of think about the middleweight division, since Bernard reigned, because you had Pavlik, Jermaine Taylor reigned for a minute, for a second. Then you had Pavlik reign for a minute, and then you had Martinez reign for a minute. And you got to remember too, Martinez couldn't get an opponent. Wasn't really. He was just taking anybody until Chavez got ready. And then, people would, quote unquote, call it the Triple G era, which ain't nothing happened there. You had, for the most part, you had Abraham doing his own thing. I think it was Sam Solomon had a title. I think Jermaine Taylor came back and took a title from him. You had Peter Quillen kind of doing his thing there, gave up his title, his career never recovered. You had Miguel Cotto, they got a title. I think he beat Sergio Martinez, a hobble Sergio Martinez. Went up there, got a title, got out of there. Then you had Canelo integrate into the division. Could have became undisputed, chose not to. For the most part, you had Triple G treading there, Jamal Charlo treading there, Munguia tread. So honestly, the division really ain't never really been like in a minute. It ain't like been really, really super duper like hot. When you think about it historically, it ain't really never been like that division where like Bud, Errol, Porter, Thurman, Danny, it ain't never really had it ain't never been top heavy. And then you talking about that junior welterweight division at the time. I think you had guys like Victor Ortiz, Marcos Madonas, Lucas Matias, Kotelnik, Morales, Kendall Holt, Timothy Bradley, who ended up reigning supreme of that division with a fight with Devin Alexander. Juan Urango. You had a number of Amir Khan, British Prescott. That was as deep as division. Honestly, it ain't been as deep and as deep a division as that division since. I know a lot of y'all love that 154-pound division, Lubin, Charlos, Andrade, but the thing about that 140-pound division, anybody remember that? They all damn near most everybody fought each other. Lamont Peterson was in that division. Mike Dallas was in that division. So pretty much Zab Judah was in that division. Danny Garcia was in that division. So Danny originally I want to say Tim Bradley conquered that division first, and then Danny can't conquer it after him. I could be wrong on that. I think Tim Bradley and Alexander happened first, and then Danny came and reconquered it. But it ain't been, but for the most part, the middleweight division ain't been that division. Like as far as it been a minute. Even when Hagler was there, to be real with you, it was more about guys coming up. I think Mugabe was the guy that came up in weight. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, Hearns, Duran, Leonard, all of them came up in weight. So, But it's a historic division. You're talking about Carlos Monzon, Marvin Hagler, Jake LaMotta, Sugar Ray Robinson, Bernard Hopkins, Jermaine Taylor, Kelly Pavlik, Sergio Martinez. I mean, if you go through the history of that division, Canelo Alvarez, it's a historic division. So, I feel like anytime you got an opportunity to stamp yourself, now I'm thinking about it, in a historic division and put your name amongst LaMottas, the Haglers, the Sugar Ray Robinsons, James Toney, Roy Jones Jr., amongst those names, I think that's something that you want to do. But I think Danny's right. And I know people was probably saying, well, Danny fought Lara. I heard it was some fishy shit behind that. I said what already happened before, and that's why Danny wasn't engaged. But he right, But Bud is different. Bud is a guy that, he legitimately fights for the bag, but he legitimately also simultaneously fights for legacy. So when you start having those conversations and he really fighting just as much as he fighting for the bag, he fighting for legacy. He gonna dot his I's and cross his T's, but it's a dangerous division. Like I said, Lars the greatest PBC fighter that ever was. Janibek's a really big and strong fighter. And Carlos Adames is been getting in shape. He been in shape. So, he ain't been caught fat, out of shape, in camps and nothing like that. So, that was his whole thing. He would run back to the DR when I think he lost to Castanos. He lost it to Cher. He would run to the DR, gain a bunch of weight. Then he had to come back and be a fat camp. So they started keeping him in the United States and stopped letting him go back to the DR. And he started his conditioning started to improve and all of that. So, Danny, people, get mad with Danny, but Danny, right, when you go to a division where it ain't a Canelo, you seen it with Madrimov when he fought Madrimov. I like Madrimov better, whatever you want to call him. When you seen it with him, like that guy was hungry. These guys are hungry. They don't know what caviar, steak, and shrimp tastes like. They eating ballpark franks and and hamburgers and shit. You know what I'm saying? They don't even get a piece of cheese and no mustard and ketchup on their hamburgers or ballpark franks. So yeah, they hungry. So you go up there, they rugged, they hungry. So, it's a good, it'll be a good test, but I think unnecessary. And that's kind of transition what Bernie said for a minute. And he says that Bud, don't see Bud coming back unless it's for 100 M's. And that's his opinion. His word ain't always Bud's word. I know Turkey said he had a surprise for him, but I think if there was an exception to coming back for 100 million, it'd be a fight inside of Cornhusker Stadium or some type of historic venue. I bet if they told Bud, hey man, you want to do it in Lincoln, Nebraska, wherever he would do it there. They said, hey Bud, you want to do a big fight in the continent of Africa, one of the countries? I guarantee you he would do it. So that's my opinion. And I think he would get out there and he would actually get out there and do those events in historic venues or something like that. But, yeah, he ain't got much left to prove, but you get an opportunity. And I think Tom Brady is the poster child for this. When he got an opportunity to continue to stack his legacy, he did. He continued to stack his legacy with rings and rings and rings and rings and rings and rings, to the point where he gave up his marriage, where, like I said before, when somebody give you an ultimatum, it's a wrap right then and there. If somebody got to give you an ultimatum, you might, hey, it ain't no point of falling in line. They already gone. So once if your job give you an ultimatum, either you move to this shift or you do this, that, and the third, or you do this, or you can get out, just prepare to get another job. Already be putting your resumes in, updating it, already be gone. Because that's what, ultimatums is a wrap. But I look forward to it though, whatever he chooses to do. But, but 100 mil, I mean, that's his price. And Turkey can find a way to get it to him. But if I had to be a great guesser, it's only one fight that probably generate that type of money for him. That's reasonable, and that's Canelo. So, but me, frankly, I remember Timothy Bradley talked about before he fought Marquez. He said after Marquez knocked out Pacquiao, he said I would have went out with my hand up. You got to understand, these dudes got families to feed. So when you stop even if if this your primary source of income, let's say this, you at work or whatever, and you've been doing your thing on the side, and now your business is, let's say, you clear, after taxes, you clear about 3K a month. You know what I'm saying? You clear 3K a month. Round that up, 36 by 36. Let's just round up to 40,000. All right, you got your business on the side that you doing when you can, and now that's clearing 5,000 a month. Consistently over a year, you clearing over 70K a month doing that. You know, only reason you're gonna keep that job is for benefits. You might keep the job for benefits, but if you say, hey, I just been doing this, you know, in a small window. If I do this in a large window, you know, that 70K could turn 140K quick. 140K could turn to $250,000 quick. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta know when to take that risk. And I know people that I met people when I worked at General Motors who own like fleets of cars and shit like that. And I know people that was worth $1 million working there because of the benefits. The health benefits that came with it. And then, you know, a lot of people believe in the rule of thumb is, hey, yo, if I can make that money doing this and I can still do this, why not? I met a bunch of people like that. I believe brother Anton Daniels is the same way. He make his bread on YouTube, probably invested it. He's software engineer on the side. I mean, if you can do both, you know, you gonna do both. Because the name of the game, and I had a 9-to-5 video y'all should have already seen. The name of the game is... Well, yeah, that's all I had to say, man. Thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And the subscribe button is the bell icon button. Hit all notifications, increase your chance to get notifications. We go live and drop videos, join the Patreon. Peace.